couple of times where there was, potentially uncapped revenue, uncapped money. We live in a global village these days. At the end of the day, people can get stuff from anywhere. I had to make a decision as to whether they were going to continue to compete with us or whether it was better to work with us. I think that cost me about $80,000, that mistake.
For this episode, I'm speaking to Rafael Niesten. Raf is the visionary and co-founder of PropTech Labs, which has a suite of products including Bricks and Agent, Invoice Automate, Inspection Manager, Key Manager, and ReHeroes. PropTech Labs has won a number of awards over the years. In 2022, Bricks and Agent took home the award for Most Innovative Scale-Up in Property and Facility Management, and more recently won a number of awards, including the Telstra Best of Business Awards and Partner of the Year at MRI Software APAC 2024, and were finalists in 4 categories for the PropTech Association of Australia Awards, including Raf personally as PropTech Leader of the Year. So grab a drink, settle in, and let's get started for Aperitivo Hour. Thanks so much for joining me. Raf, so you are a serial entrepreneur. You've studied marketing and media at university. I did a little bit of snooping. And you've been founding companies for over 20 years. Was there a project or a product that really marked a turning point in your career to kind of propel you to where you are now?
Look, I think it's all little steps to get you to the big step. There's a lot of missteps as well. So there's not always success in everything you do. And there's been so many unsuccessful steps to get to there. And I think the best teacher is failure. And not being able to succeed at everything you do, which is not what they teach in school these days, where everybody's a winner. But I think it's a culmination of learning. Like one of my first things that I ever did was I was selling mobile phones, right? And that was in a time when mobile phones were cool and it was a new thing, and people were like, "Oh, I've got a mobile phone now." Obviously, everyone's got a mobile phone; it's a commonplace thing. But there was so many opportunities in building a market. There was a couple of times where there was potentially uncapped revenue, uncapped money, and I suppose learning and seeing through what the opportunity was and looking through the loopholes and digging and always being curious sort of leads you to where you end up getting. And I loved software, and I did a degree in marketing. I did a master's in marketing. I did half a PhD in it. And then I thought, I like building businesses, but marketing's marketing. It's one part of the puzzle. There's so many other parts. And it was collecting and learning about all these things over a very long period of time that then you go, okay, now I understand this. I've been through this pain. I failed at this point, and I've got sort of that burn, that I've been burnt doing these things, that it drives you forward. And you're like, now I know what I know. It's a much better place to be. And, that's sort of where it ends up being. So I don't think there's one specific thing that was like, this was it. It was, I did this, then I learned from that, then I did this, then I learned from that. And then, use, I suppose, a combination of education and that curiosity. And then, a lot of it's luck, just being in the right place at the right time.
If you were to start again, and you're saying you've been burned a few times there, if you were to start again, what is the one thing or one of the few things that you go, do you know what? That is something I'll just never do again. I'm not going to touch it.
Well, there's sectors I'd never touch again. But I think when you're trying to build, you inevitably cut corners because you're trying to get there faster. Like the allure, and you read books and you listen to podcasts, which now you can, before there wasn't. And you hear people's stories and you think, geez, I want to be like that person. But what you don't realize is that there's been decades behind that person getting to that point. And look, some people are very lucky and they strike gold on the first time they hit the hammer down into the ground. Others, and the vast majority, are not so fortunate. But I would say build a solid foundation, because that's what's going to drive you forward. If you try and get rich quick, or you try and build something, or you quote unquote fake it until you make it, I think the reality of that is inevitably it will become your undoing one way or another, in that you cut too many corners and you had nothing left at the end of it, or you faked it till you made it, and then that cost you because the clients lost trust in what you were building. And a great example that cost me a lot of money, I had a customer in Singapore, and I had a voice recognition software company, and they said to me, that it was me in the room and about 30 of them. And they said to me, have you got this function and feature? And I thought, yeah, no, we've got it. We can do it. It
Yeah.
turns out we didn't have it. And that was part of the contract. And I think that cost me about $80,000, that mistake, because I then had to spend a huge amount of time getting that done as opposed to doing all the other things I needed to do. So, don't cut corners, be truthful and say, don't fake it till you make it, because people can find that stuff out pretty quickly, and it either will sink you or it will hurt your reputation moving forward.
So you'd say that it's really, especially when you're coming to stakeholders with what you have and you're going, like, this is exactly what we have. These are the limitations of what we have. And we can definitely look at building that for you. But this is where we're at right now, and really listening to their feedback and being like, okay, this is where we need to go.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. That works well where you've got people that are willing to collaborate and wait if you've got something unique. But if you go into a big group and they think that you're unprepared, that also works in the absolute opposite way, where they say, well, they're not going to do it. We'll do it ourselves. Well, let's get some IP out of these people. And then, okay, now we'll just go ahead and do it because we've got 50 times the resources that they've got. So you're sort of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in a lot of ways. And sometimes you give away a little bit too much and sometimes you don't give away enough. So it's a juggle, and you've got to really know your audience. And NDAs mean absolutely nothing. So whatever you tell someone, it doesn't matter what they sign, because like everything, you have to go to court and prove it. And if you're versing, a top 100 ASX listed company, they have unlimited resources and you're a startup, good luck.
Okay, so really knowing the market you're jumping into. Okay.
Yeah, as best as you possibly can. And the more research you do, the better, and the more understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve and what competitors are out there, not only in your local market, but also globally, because we live in a global village these days. At the end of the day, people can get stuff from anywhere. They can look up companies that operate in the Middle East or in the US, and they can say, these people have what I want, and I can have that today. I don't have to wait 6 or 12 months, maybe, if you can ever get that done. So we live in a global world, and don't be surprised if people say, what else are you doing? What else is there in the world that does this? And a lot of people say, no, we're the only people in the whole world. Just be very mindful that you are most likely not the only people in the entire world doing this. And it can easily be found these days.
Well, that's actually a perfect kind of segue into this, because PropTech Labs was previously branching out into a number of countries. Where are you now? Where is PropTech Labs now, and what does this global view look like for you in 5 years?
Look, global's great, and we're very fortunate. We've got some pretty good partners that are global. So we are embedded in some of the solutions, and we partner with some of the solutions that are global. So currently we operate in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. We have South Africa and the UK. We've got aspirations for the US as well, but it's a different market and a different way of operating. So we're lucky in the sense we're not breaking ground as our own. We integrate into platforms. So by virtue of those integrations and the partners we work with, we automatically get to ride on the coattails and go into those other markets in a more seamless manner. So it's a lot easier for us than it is for others who need to break ground and go there. That being said, there's still customizations, there's still changes that need to be made, taxation, rules, different things that are dealt with. So, there's no set and forget, there's no one size fits all, but we're in a more fortunate position to be able to springboard into those countries by the partnerships we currently have today, with minimal additional headcount and work that needs to be done.
So now that you've kind of expanded into your different markets, what are those biggest challenges that you're finding with moving into those international markets?
Yeah, look, you've got your challenges. Obviously, time zone's one of the biggest challenges, because you've got people headquartered in one region, and being in lovely here in Australia, we're sort of in the middle of nowhere with regards to time zones for Europe, North America, etc. Asia's not bad, but time zone and making sure you've got coverage across those time zones. I mean, we're used to working in a distributed team, so we've got our team members in many, many different countries. Australia, New Zealand. We've got people in Sri Lanka. We've got people in the Philippines. It's a global company, so we have a global footprint of people. But I think that the most challenging is time zones. And I mean, if you look at between Australia, New Zealand, the UK, we all pretty much operate very similarly. So, yeah, there's some tweaks and modifications and tax changes and that sort of stuff. That's all relatively straightforward. It's more around finding the people, trusting the people that are going to be working in those remote time zones to do what needs to be done, and making sure you get the right people that you don't have to then micromanage, because ultimately, they're representing you in a region. So yeah, that's a difficult thing. Often you meet people, you hire them, and you've never met them face to face. So you've got to sort of throw caution to the wind a bit.
So, especially when you're looking at that person out, how do you find the right fit of people to work with? Are you going over there and meeting them, or is it all this new world of remote and just trusting the people that you are getting to recruit?
Yeah, I think you've sort of got where we've operated in other markets, we've got sort of trusted people and people that have come to us through connections. So we've got connections in all of those markets. And, we sort of say, hey, do you know anyone that's looking for X job? And they say, oh, so-and-so's leaving here or has been working here for 10 years, etc. So they come already recommended. We're not going, oh, geez, do you know anyone? And let's put a job ad up and hope for the best and do some interviews. We've done stuff like that. I've done stuff in other businesses like that. Wasn't so successful. So that trusted person that you can get to help you and to navigate that is quite helpful. And I always say to people, my preference is I hire people based on their attitude, because I can teach skills, I can't teach attitude. So, that's normally served me quite well. Obviously, there's been some mistakes in the past of hiring some people that weren't really the right fit, and, culturally and from a number of reasons. But yeah, that's sort of how we find people, normally through a trusted advisor or network.
Okay, so in terms of the team, you have quite a decent team at PropTech Labs and Bricks and Agent. What is PropTech Labs in one sentence, and what is the problem that your company and your team are solving at the moment?
Yeah, so basically we solve pretty much most of the problems that property managers have once a tenant moves into the property. All those complex, low value, high volume tasks that people do or have done in times past, we solve with automation, technology, and artificial intelligence.
And when you're developing these different ideas, how do you know that it's the right fit for you as a company and that you're going down the right path?
Yeah, look, in the very beginning, we relied on judgment and we relied on a few people we knew just to get something out the door. Now we've got more sophistication, so we track what users are doing in platform. We can make sure that they're using the platform optimally. We can provide advice. There's a whole heap of really cool tools which weren't available when we first started this business. But we also have a product council. So we invite every quarter our product council members to come, and we present ideas to them and they present ideas to us, and we say, this is what we're thinking about doing and this is what we're proposing to do, and they come up with some really cool ideas and say, but if you could do this, etc., because they're working in it every day. We also have a large number of our staff that were property managers that went through this plan, that understand, hey, if I could have done this way, it would have been a lot better. So we have a lot of data points that we get feedback from, because the reality is, and I think there was a great saying from Henry Ford, the guy who made Ford motor cars, and he said, if I asked what people wanted, they would have asked me for a faster horse. So sometimes listening, sometimes just doing and absorbing, and then saying, what do you guys think about this? And then iterating as you take it to market.
I do love that saying, purely because from a product perspective, you've got so much input on a day-to-day basis of people telling you your product is amazing, but just do this. And you're like, okay, well, I can do that, but
Yeah,
there's all these other complications to it. And really, is that the best use of our time to be giving you this when it might not be what you need in the end? You'll get it. And then
I can highly advocate people never doing this. If someone says, build me this feature and I'll sign up with you, and they're the only people that ever want to use that feature, building bespoke software is a recipe for disaster, because you have one customer that uses one feature that you need to then support, maintain, etc., forever and ever and ever.
So, well, one of the things that I do know Bricks and Agent pivoted from was a tradie paid revenue model. And how did you actually come to the conclusion that that was the right way to pivot away from, and go, how did you go socializing that with agencies already on board?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember around 2020, there was this thing called COVID. I don't know if you heard of it or not, but that sort of caused a lot of problems in the trade marketplace area. And our view was always, how do we become not another cost for the property management agency? In our view, there were so many expensive costs for property management agencies. We didn't want to become another one of those costs. So we opted for a different model and we said, let's the trade pays. And overseas, that's quite prevalent. There's a large number of agencies and companies and countries, for example, in the UK, where they charge the trades 20% to get a job on their platform because there's no marketing, there's no advertising, there's no overheads. So it's what happens. But COVID came along, and then the ability to find trades was very, very difficult. So we had trades going, I'm just not going to pay for this. And then if they're not going to pay for it, they won't use the platform. There was no other trades. So it sort of became a choice. And we always had a plan to have another model, but just the timing to put all of that together, the back-end functionality, etc. So we rolled out our agency pays model, which is a normal software as a service. Some people never wanted their trades to pay. I said, they're my favorite trades. They do a great job. Other people say, well, I'm giving them a huge amount of work and they don't have to pay anything for that work. So, the bottle of wine that I get at the end of the year is really not sufficient. I want to not have to pay another $2,000 a year of subs. So there was always multiple sides, but we sat down and we thought this trade blockage where there was just not enough trades and there was such a backlog of work people needed to get done. We pivoted and said, this is a model that is probably going to fit better. And it did at that juncture in time. And then off we went in terms of growing again.
And you've got full suite of products at PropTech Lab. When it comes to actually conceptualizing a new idea or pivoting with different options that you have in the business, how do you go about defining that the product really has a market need and that there is a market fit for it?
Yeah, luckily, we've got customers that are using 5 of our 5 platforms now. So what we do is we'll say, hey, we've got this new idea or this new technology. Great example is our 360 AI technology for inspections, right? We launched that. That had been something we've been working on for a while. And when we first floated the idea, people were like, 360s, and is it going to stand up in tribunal? And I like to create my own comments. And there was a whole heap of stuff. So we sort of parked it for a bit, and then it became, more of what people were asking us for. They wanted more simplicity. They wanted faster reporting time. They wanted to have less time spent in properties and better quality reports and all these sorts of things. So we sort of collaborate with the people that are using it. And we're pretty fortunate. We're just shy, I think, now of 3,000 agencies in region that use us. So, there's 11,000 in the whole country and not all of them do sales. So we've got a pretty decent number. We're sitting at about 1.6 million properties. So we've got an idea of what people want, and the brilliance of what we have as opposed to other people that we compete with in some of the verticals is we have all of the connectivity between all of the platforms under one company in one place, and in some cases deeply embedded with single sign-on inside the platform. So it's a highly appealing thing to have one company rather than 5 different companies that don't really talk to each other, or they do in a rudimentary way, to have one company that does it all. And it builds a great moat. So it gives us the opportunity to try different things in platform, whether they work or whether they don't work, and some of the product council members or some of our wider community. But to give you an example, after all of the 360 back and forward design, conceptualization, alpha testing, beta testing, when we launched it, we had just over 2,000 inquiries from our existing customers of how do I get this and how do I turn this on. So, we've sort of got a formula. It works because we've been doing this for a while now. We sort of know, and people tell us the pain points. People told us, we created a key automation platform. People said, keys suck. We're having big trouble. It sucks. We lose all our keys. No one knows what's going on. We thought, okay, fair enough. This makes sense. Let's connect the dots. Invoice Automate came from a customer, rang me up, said, can we use Bricks and Agent to process our council, water and strata invoices? And I said, why? You've got a inbuilt invoice solution within your trust accounting property management software. And he said, have you tried it? And I said, no. And he said, here's 300 invoices. And at the end of it, I said, that was shit. And I said, there has to be a better way. So Invoice Automate was born. So, and Inspection Manager's been around for 14 years. It's got a huge client base. It always has. It's the market leader by a long, long way. And then, in the maintenance space, that's where we started. But we realized maintenance and inspections talk together. Inspections and invoicing from a water meter reading talk together. Keys talk to both maintenance and inspections. And we recently acquired RE Heroes back in May, and that has a really cool AI chatbot. We had an AI chatbot, but it wasn't nowhere near as good as that one. So it adds more functionality, and it connects across everything, as does our asset register, as does all the things we do. So we collect and connect all of these services. So when we want to try something new, we can try it with friendlies and say, what do you think? Give us feedback. We don't necessarily have to charge for it because it's another line of products that we offer. It's not the only thing that we offer. So we're in a very, very fortunate position where we stand at the moment in relation to that.
Well, in the last year, you were just talking about collecting and connecting, and it sounds really in connecting and collecting have acquired both Inspection Manager and Rival Maintenance Manager. How did you decide that they were actually the right fit for PropTech Labs?
Yeah, look, I think there's ways you can grow. You can sit there and grow organically, which, we've been doing and we did very well. But then there's acquisition. And if the acquisition adds an exponential value to what you're doing. And in the cases of, Maintenance Manager, they were our biggest competitor. They were really our only competitor when we acquired them. There's another group that plays in the space, but they're very, very small, comparable. And it made sense. Their technology was pretty rudimentary and needed a lot of uplift and a lot of work. And they had to make a decision as to whether they were going to do that work and continue to compete with us, or whether it was better to work with us. And fortunately, with that acquisition, it was owned by RACV, which obviously is an automobile club of Victoria, very long-standing organisation, but they freely admit they're not software builders and not software developers. So we were taking market share. They had some decisions to make, and it made sense. We collaborated, and then we moved everyone off the Maintenance Manager platform into the Bricks and Agent platform. And that was a very, very fun experience, if I can tell you. Not really, it wasn't fun at all. That's what happens when you shift huge volumes of data in a very, very short window of time. But we lived to survive. And then, Inspection Manager. I called one of the co-founders of Inspection Manager the day before we announced to the market that we had acquired Maintenance Manager. And I said, would you be interested in a chat? This is what we've just done. And they said, yeah, let's have a chat. And then we acquired Inspection Manager in January, and in May we had acquired, Maintenance Manager in January and Inspection Manager in May of the same year. So our team was absolutely smashed to get all of that stuff done, and made me wait for a full year before I bought anything else.
Well, that data cleanup would have been an absolute mammoth project for your team.
Yeah,
I can only imagine.
It was a lot. And, aside from just bringing the customers, the platform growth, the billing, the revenue. But, we had so many things happening. We had new integrations we hadn't fully tested. We had connectivities to different platforms. We had to get data in a certain format, in a certain way, by a certain time. And then, we inherited platforms that needed a lot of work under the hood to get them to where we thought that they needed to be. Not just that, you've got your tech platform, then you've got your finance element, you've got all your staff and your culture, and, synergizing all of that is not for the faint of heart. And doing two huge integrations within like a 4-month window, not for the faint of heart. But if we look at where we were and where we are, it's light and day.
One of the things that I kept hearing you say is around product council and user testing. So when you're actually looking at your user needs, how are you gathering that ongoing feedback post-launch or post-acquisition as well? And if there is any negative feedback, how quick do you iterate?
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate in terms of the negative feedback. And I always tell people we're not perfect. We will make mistakes. We sort of operate at the cutting edge of technology, and sometimes that's a little bit too full on. We've become more measured, given our size, about what we release and how we release, and the quality that goes out. So we have far, far less issues than we did before. But, we have customers that will ring up and say, I'm on a competitor platform and they do X. can you do it? And we say, let's have a look. Yep. Okay, let's do it. I mean, we've got 95 people in our development team. So most of our competitors have 2 or 3 or maybe less. So they can't get through the volume we can get through. And it allows us, when we've created that stability and that stable base, it allows us to start adding stuff at a rate of knots and doing so across all platforms, not just the one vertical. So we're not specializing in one thing, we're specializing in 5 things. But we can iterate and turn things around really quickly. We've had customers say, oh, what about this? And we think, oh, what a great idea. Create a user story, groom it up, get it estimated, and get it in the next sprint. And 4 weeks later, it's in people's hands. We will always develop for the greater good. We'll never develop for one person. They say, oh, I want this by myself. We'll never develop it. And, not every idea is a good idea. Some ideas we just say, look, sorry, it's just not going to work. And they say, well, we're going to go, or we're going to leave, or this is what it is. What it is. We can't develop things we don't think add value, and our team don't think add value. We have to develop things that the greater good want. The bigger the prize, the better, and things that will change the way that they operate. We also have to do things that people don't even think are possible, because that's where you actually get the best value. And, we built our own chatbot. We programmed 18 languages into it so people could communicate in any one of 18 languages. That idea came from when I was in Bali and I was chatting with a Gojek driver on the app, and he was Bahasa and I was English, and we were having a great chat. And I thought, why can't people log maintenance like that? And there it was.
That's actually really interesting, because I've seen a colleague recently was playing around with some of the apps that you can get that do the video translations. And my husband's Italian, so they did a video with a translation into Italian, and then my husband looked at it and was like, not quite. Close, but no cigar on that one.
No cigar. Yeah. But, my view is close is better than none. So if you've got someone who only speaks Italian and doesn't speak English or doesn't write English, whatever the case is, how are they going to communicate? So if you can bridge the gap, even if it's incrementally better, at least it's better than nothing. That's my sort of view on it. As a native Italian speaker. But that being said, those frameworks are getting better and better. When we first started, it was hit and miss. Now it's like, this is pretty damn good, comparable to what it was.
Well, there's always the risk of pandering to trends as well. How do you ensure that you're addressing real user need rather than just implementing AI for the sake of innovation?
Yeah, I don't do AI for the sake of AI. I think that's, and there's so many people that lie about AI, and we've seen it in our competitors. They say, oh, we've got AI, and no, you've got someone in a virtual assistant typing stuff in, or you're using an outdated, crappy framework which is producing garbage output, or it's not AI, it's just a series of intents and prompts, which is not AI. It's programmed information that's come in and out. I don't think we would ever subscribe to doing something for argument's sake or doing something just to say we had it. But the stuff we are doing around AI and the stuff we've released with our AI is changing the way that people operate. And we've been told so. So, it's changed the way that people operate business, whether it's, a 360 AI comment automation or our automated asset detection from an inspection or a maintenance request or an invoice from Invoice Automate. All of this stuff happens today in real life. It's no one's sitting there going, this is what we've got to do. At the beginning, people would say to us, oh, your invoice automation platform is so accurate. Are you sure no one's sitting there typing stuff in? We're doing 500,000 invoices a month. I don't think we could have enough people in the world to do that level of programming that quickly with them having it in their hands within 10 seconds. So, there's AI and there's AI. And to answer your question around, who makes these decisions, it has to be something that's going to add value. Just for the sake of saying I've got AI, who cares? AI is everywhere now. It's a buzzword. It's a flavor of the minute, like Bitcoin, like blockchain, like all these fads that Web 3.0. Don't get me started on that. All these fads that started and just petered out. I think with AI, it definitely is different though. I think you can utilize the technology and the tools. And we're fortunate in that our whole team is AI certified. So we have been doing this since before AI was cool, running containers, running different frameworks and connecting them together and trying to get outputs, to now having, a really simple way to push this out and a fast way of doing it so that we can showcase these sorts of things to our client base and our future clients as well.
Well, all your client base, from what I can tell, is the property management kind of realm, this real estate realm that we have. It's a very soft skill environment. It's a very human environment. How do
Yeah.
you envision AI transforming the role of property managers in the next 5 years, Dave?
It's the heavy lifting. It's that manual, drama-filled work that nobody wants to do. You get a maintenance request and it's pages and pages of stuff, and you don't know which trade to choose and how much you should be paying, and all these recommendations, if you will, that the human has to think through and spend a lot of time on. Dealing with owners, sitting in between trades and tenants and owners and tenants and strata companies and insurance, and there's all these touch points which are completely wasteful and zero income producing, zero value producing. So AI will form a basis whereby it does that heavy lifting. We've already seen it. People that used to do an inspection in a 3-bedroom house, it's far under 10 minutes now. It used to be an hour and 20. So now you've got an hour and 10 more to do stuff that you need to do, or that you can use that's value producing, speaking to owners, managing more properties, doing things that make logical sense. I think there was a great saying I was reading something the other day around someone saying, I don't want my AI to do my art and my music. I want my AI to do my cooking and wash my dishes and clean my house. So I can do the art and I can do the drawing. And that's where I think we're sort of playing. That's our sort of ethos with all of this stuff.
Well, it's a pretty good core principle to have across everything, especially now that AI is integrated with everything that we're doing now, and is, as you're saying, definitely a buzzword. Now, what is your biggest oh shit moment? So whether good or bad.
Yeah, look, I think Invoice Automate was probably a good memory of that. So we spent probably 5 months trying to work out how we could do this in a way that made sense. And we tried so many different ways to data match and data points and change the algorithm and change the way we scan, different OCR technology and different AI technology. And then it was just like, man, this is an impossibility. We're never going to get this problem solved. And there's a good saying that what does it say? There's a saying that everything's impossible until it's done. So it was impossible. And then it was about 3:45 in the morning, and I was reaching the very end of my time, and I was pretty tired, but I was desperately trying to work it out. And I decided to have a shower, and it wasn't going to work. And then while I was in the shower, a weird fact, I don't have a shower. I have a shower with the lights off, so I can think.
Yeah.
I have no distraction. And then it came to me, and I thought, that's it. And I went back, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what's going to do it. And I went to write a message to the team, to the group, and I accidentally called everyone at about just before 4 a.m. And I was around, but I couldn't hear the phone ringing because I had my headphones on the table. And I was calling everyone at that time. But it was a breakthrough moment. It's like, oh, man, I should have seen this all these times ago. It was sitting there looking at me in the face. And then finally, that was it. And then we started the development to it, and it was like, yep, this is it. This is going to work. This is how we're going to do it. Done. And then that product has literally been exponential growth ever since it started. Huge, huge growth. We did more invoices last month than we did in the first year of our operation. And, it's the models are better, and we've learned a lot. We've put a lot in. And, there are people that have tried to copy us, if you will, in what we did. And it was an absolute disaster.
Well, they just haven't had a 3:45 a.m. shower.
Working 9 to 5 ain't going to solve this problem. I can tell you right now. It was a huge breakthrough, and that's why, in terms of Invoice Automate, we don't have any real competitors in this space, because it is highly complicated, and it's not just about getting the details off the invoice. It's about all the connected workflows, all the smarts, all the other things that go with the processing of an invoice that nobody realizes, that all these things that sit under the surface. So there's one part, and then there's all the other parts. It's like the iceberg. You can see the top, but you can't see underneath. And that's where I think competitors and people that have tried to copy what we've done have fallen off the cliff, because it ain't what it looks like.
No, definitely agree there. And one last one. If marketing had control of the roadmap in any of your roadmaps, what would they change? What would be the first thing they'd change if they had the control for it? a full day?
Probably me changing the order of stuff that's going in and out, because I'm always forever changing stuff. I'm like, yeah, we've got an idea. Let's roll with this. Let's change this up. Let's put this here. I think from that perspective, they'd love stability with me, because I'm always tinkering and always chopping and changing. And I think, oh, what a cool idea. Let's run with this. And they're more formulaic and they want a big plan over a big period of time. I'm more, this is a cool idea. Let's give it a shot.
The
That's a
marketing's
lot.
put in a lock.
Yeah, pretty much. They'd just kick me out for a day and then they'd probably be happy. I'm a product guy, I'm not a marketing guy, even though I've got a degree or multiple degrees in it. I like to build stuff. But yeah, I think that's what they love. If they could take control of the roadmap, they would ensure that they'd have some tranquility and peace for once in their life. Not just in relation to roadmap, but all the other things, because we keep winning all these awards and we keep, you know, we are the winner of the Telstra Business Awards for New South Wales in outstanding growth. So that's
Fantastic.
going to be, yeah. So there are 22,000 applications for the awards. So we're the state finalist for New South Wales, and then going to the national finals. And we've won all these other awards and we've done all these cool things. But yeah, they'd probably like me to stop getting awards as well.
Well, you've already won Partner of the Year at MRI Software this year.
All right. Yeah.
You're really doing
awards. Look, we don't do it for the awards, but it's good for the team. Like, it's a great achievement because the team work really, really hard. You know, we deliver amazing things. We're sort of at the cutting edge, and people go the extra mile in the business to try and make our customers' lives better. So the awards aren't for me; it's for the team and their recognition of their work that they do, and the fact that we've gone this far in these awards and we've won the state. Or we've been a partner of the year where there's 300 partners, or we've got all of these PropTech awards and finalists and all this sort of stuff. And we're just some AI award finalist thing now. I don't know. There's all these things that keep coming up. But yeah, they're nice, but it's more for the team's benefit than mine. You know, I want the team to feel proud of what they've been able to achieve, and they've done an amazing job. This is a team effort. It's not a one person. Yeah, there's one driver in the seat, but there's a whole heap of people that are pedaling furiously in the background.
You guys are absolutely leaping ahead in the PropTech industry in Australia. So thank you so much for being on today and taking the time. And
With pleasure.
Have a
Thanks for having me.
fantastic rest of the week.
You too.
Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
That's a wrap from my chat with Raf. And if you want to learn more about PropTech Labs, jump into their website, www.proptechlabs.com.au, and you can listen to their own podcast, PropTech Labs, on Spotify. And thank you so much for tuning in to Aperitivo Hour. I'm your host, Ashley Anderson, and to hear about our upcoming episodes and exclusive content, follow aperitivo.hour.podcast on Instagram. And I'd really appreciate if you would hit follow on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube, so we can get some listens and keep bringing in these amazing personalities from our community. So, Tin, here's to PropTech and the product teams that are driving the vision.